102.20. Good timing. Okay,
Joey,
where do you want to start? Yeah.
This might go a little longer because there are some doozies here. We can't.
Listen, you don't forget, I have to edit this program and set up all the releases after we are done. So we cannot go too long. Now tell me where you want to start.
I'm thinking more like midnight. The CPI report came and went, right? It seemed like so long ago, but it did came out this past week. And prices went up 0.2% month over month when examining the September data. And the annual inflation rate stands at 2.4%. And that is the lowest it has been since February of 2021. So it's been a long time since the annual rate has been this low. And so while there may be some good news here, because the price of shit has been relatively stable for the past little while.
The price of shit has, but if you want anything good, then it has not been stable at all.
Well, in the past 4, 5, 6, maybe longer months, from when I see it's kind of flatline. Now it's gone up over the past few years. That's the thing we've got to bring up, is that the rate of change maybe is slowing down, but the cost of everything has been elevated significantly the past few years, and it's not ever going to go back to. It's never going to go down unless we have negative inflation, which is deflation, and they're fighting very hard to ensure that we don't get to a deflationary environment. But now that we're here, 2.4%. year over year, 0.2% month over month. And they just lowered rates 50 bips just last month. This might add fuel to the fire that more rate cuts, deeper rate cuts might be required, because now you have this election. It's wrapping up in November. It's possible after the election, depending on who gets in, you're going to be seeing a new chair of the Federal Reserve. So that Jerome Powell may get either pushed or booted or whatever. So you might have a new person there. Plus, you might have renewed pressure from the White House. The White House may want to somehow make debt cheaper, because people have been holding onto debt and it's been harder to deal with it as rates were higher. Also, as rates come down, it makes it easier to borrow capital. And those two combination things plus others could help spark the stuttering economy. So the White House may put pressure on the Federal Reserve to aggressively lower rates after the election, because they want it to show that, look, we're doing a great job. We've revived the economy. We've made it better than it used to be, which was fantastic, Jack. In reality, it hasn't. So with all that being said, it's going to be a fun few months. I'm not sure when the next meeting is, but
it's it's the day after the election.
That is funny. So that's going to be without any political pressure, right? Probably not.
I think it's the day after. Next FOMC meeting is, I think it's like the 8th. I'm pretty sure. Someone in the chat can tell me if I can't find it. But yeah, I'm pretty sure it's November 8th. So right after. Strap in, man. Strap in.
Exactly that. Yeah. So yeah, prices are never going to come down. I mean, I can't say never.
They've never come down. They've never come down materially.
Have we ever had a deflationary environment?
No, because because all these guys care about is fake GDP growth. They don't give a shit about anything else. This idea that I tweeted this today. I forget even what the tweet was about, but this idea that we have to grow the economy and the only measuring stick is GDP is insane. We refuse to look at productivity in terms of deflationary gains, right? Which really is the natural order of things, natural direction of things. Jeff Booth talks about that all the time. I agree with him on that. Listen, CPI is one thing. Trueflation today ticked up for the first time in a long time. And trueflation has been this thing that has been anchoring lower and lower and lower, coming down into the twos. There's been a 2 handle on trueflation for months now. And for it to pop up at a time when the Fed is cutting, global easing has clearly begun. And the only thing the Fed doesn't want to do more than admit they were wrong and raise is cut too slowly. The market's pricing in the 25 in November, 25 in December. Are we going to head back to zero? You think? Is zero where we're going to fake economic strength? I don't know.
I don't even want to make a prediction because I have no.
Keith Dicker, friend of the show. I was talking on Looney Hour last week. I should see if he wants to come back on maybe in December when I'm back from my paternity leave. But, he was saying that he thinks it's a race to zero now all over the modern world. And I think, man, holy shit. If we go from zero, if we go from 3, whatever we were in 2019 to zero, faster than we ever went, then to 5.5. I say we, like the royal we is the United States in this case, the only bank that matters. 5.5, and then head back to zero in the course of like 18 months, over the course of 18 months or so. I don't know. ChatGPT, is that good or bad? Probably not good. You don't want to be in this position. And this is an image that's often used to describe interest rate policy. Where we are now is in a car going down the highway. And generally the car, you want to just be switching lanes in a controlled manner. And the lanes represent the interest rate levels, right? Where you are now is careening side to side into the guardrails over and over again. Like you've lost control of the vehicle, and soon you will have a problem keeping the vehicle with all four tires on the road. And it seems like you're getting to that point now. Now, the other point, the other thing to note here is that in 2019, you were in a bit of a different political environment. There wasn't hot wars all over the Western world. There wasn't an Israel-Palestine conflict at the level there is now. Iran wasn't directly involved, among other things, right? Like you've seen all kinds of stuff over the last few years, specifically, I guess, over the last year or so. I think zero's in the cards, honestly.
It's possible.
I think it's going to be on the back of conflict and political turmoil and all this stuff. And I think there's going to be, Martin Armstrong and others talk about how the thing that's going sort of unreported and undiscussed in, polite circles, but is being discussed behind the scenes, is the likelihood of major nation states breaking up. Canada, the US, parts of the Eurozone, obviously good candidates for this. What does that do to rates? Probably doesn't send them higher. I'll tell you that, right? Like
it's instability.
Yeah, instability wants low rates. There's
the meeting right after the election, right?
Yeah,
so you're saying the day after. What do you think?
Well, let's say the same week. I don't know if it's the day after, but the same week for sure.
If it's the day after, what do you think happens? The election is wrapped up. We have a definitive winner.
No chance.
So you think the rate cut or a decision by the Federal Reserve is going to happen before we know who?
Yeah, it has to. Powell has put himself into a corner when it comes to what he will or won't do around the election, because he said so many times over and over again to anybody who will listen. You ask that guy what his favorite Grateful Dead song is, and he says the Federal Reserve is not political. We don't think about politics when we make rate cuts or when we make rate decisions. So he's, he has mimetically painted himself into a corner by repeating this line. And so he will do whatever he wants to do. Now, like I said to you before, I think instability domestically or internationally lends itself to lower rates, and they're on the trajectory to zero, just like everybody else is. I don't know if it's zero in 18 months or 24 months or 36 months, but to your point, the debt is at this point a number that no longer matters in terms of repayment. So, it matters in terms of like interest maybe and faith in the long bond maybe or whatever, but they have to make sure that the effects of that debt are as, intangible to the average person as possible. But the more important thing is that they're not tangible to government. And to do that, you have to set those rates pretty low. So, Boomer's saying Powell hasn't done a horrible job. Yeah,
the circumstances were awful for him.
You know what? I don't fucking buy that. You know what I think? I think that him, like Macklem, was messaging a certain certainty about rates, a certain certainty about economics. Don't forget, Boomer, this guy got up there and said transitory a million fucking times. He was either stupid or lying. He's a lawyer, not an economist, and you need an economist in that situation to at least help you define the terms.
I'll defend him in the case that, look, if he went up there and saying it was doom and gloom, I wasn't going to do very good for the economy. So he had to say this bullshit about
let's define good job. Is good job lying to low IQ people? No, then there's a lot of people doing a good job in the States. Fuck this. We should be giving out awards for all the good jobs being done.
No,
there's tons of people who are lying to idiots all over the modern world. They're not doing a good job.
The point I would like to make is that his hand was forced because somebody from the Treasury Department / White House decided to say, look, we're going to fucking butter this fucking thing. And what the fuck's he going to say? No? Right? He's like, okay, I'll buy every fucking bond you put out there. Well,
don't forget. Can we also not forget? Can we also not forget that meek and mild Jerome Powell was fucking buying equities before
That's
announcing
bullshit.
rate decision. He's a fucking con man.
That's
This guy was on the,
not say that.
and he is a con man. He's a con man. And not only that, there's no sure sign that somebody's a con man than getting a GQ cover. Like if your politician needs a GQ cover, they are a con man or con woman. That's the fact of the matter.
I don't want to go there. I'm waiting for the day that there's a reason why. I'm waiting for the day that he retires or gets pushed or whatever. Goes on a speaking tour and declares that he has Bitcoin on his balance sheet. That'd be fucking epic. Because he understands it. Like from his position, he's like, "Fuck, why am I going to deal with anything with TradFi? I can buy this asset over here that is totally separate." And I would love to hear.
He saves his wealth in Grateful Dead vinyls.
I just want to see him at some the Canadian Bitcoin conference, or I don't want to see
Jerome Powell headlining.
That'd be fucking incredible. And I'm a Bitcoiner. I've been stacking sats since the beginning of the QE phenomena. So here we go. That'd be amazing. I'd love to hear that.
Who are you going to see at 3:00? Well, we got David St. Onge on the side stage. He's talking about inflation. We got Julian and Adam. They're talking about Get Based and Bitcoin Media. But I'm thinking of maybe going to see Jerome Powell on the main stage.
On how to set up your cold card correctly.
He's up there with Ben. They're doing self-custody. Great.
Boom just was asking about Chicago. I'll give a Chicago story. Really,
let's do Chicago.
It's very brief.
Is it the office reno? Is that the one?
No, you can bring up that one.
Okay, sure. You start. You start.
So
okay.
There was this cargo train that was stopped in West Chicago, in the west side of Chicago, and so it was there. What happens when you have a cargo train stuck over there?
We know
exactly, because he's active looting and breaking and enter. So they had an estimated 50 to 150 people there actively looting the fucking train. They had to send police over there. Reports of individuals stealing boxes of items.
Wait a minute, they sent police and not social workers?
No, because the
why did they send social workers? I was told social workers is what we need.
The mayor was sleeping, from what I understand at the time, so they were able to dispatch most of his detail over there. So yeah, they were stealing shit like TVs and other stuff from the train. It was just chaotic. I love it, man. So if you have a train that stops in Chicago, it's gonna be fucking looted, and by the time it gets to its destination, it's gonna be fucking empty. I love that stuff. Amazing. Chicago's a fucking disaster. I love Chicago.
It's a gong show over there. I also heard that the mayor is in a little hot water for spending $80,000 on an office reno.
Oh yeah,
I'm pretty sure that was Chicago. I'm not 100% sure, because it feels like you would have seen it if it was Chicago, but someone can look that up. That's great. I talk about like end of empire stuff. This is top notch. Mayor, can you discuss the latest on the looting of a stalled cargo train by Chicago citizens? We deployed the police as fast as we could, and no one took anything worth over $950, so we can't prosecute anybody.
No, that's
Mayor,
California.
It's probably there too. And Mayor, can you tell us about the reno to your office for $80K? What kind of reno to a mayor's office takes $80,000?
You need the button to close the window screen. You have to have the fish in the wall, because you
need the like escape hatch too for when in
case something happens. You gotta get out of there. The back cave.
Yeah.
So there's lots of different things you could do. 80K, but let's be honest, 80K nowadays, even US, can't take you very far. So like it may seem like a lot, but maybe you're just getting carpets and new paint.
People don't know, but the studio that I recorded in here for CBP was $80K.
That's what gets you there. That's $80K Canadian. Big difference, right? TD Bank, we can't leave notable stories, because I love TD Bank, because they were fined $3 billion. That's with a B, and this is a record-breaking fine that was done by U.S. authorities. This is due to serious violations of anti-money laundering laws. And remember, we always hear that it's Bitcoin that's involved in money laundering. And I'm waiting for the CEO of Bitcoin to get sued $3 billion or more for their money laundering activities. Oh, shit, it's not going to happen. The bank admitted to failing to adequately monitor and report suspicious activities related to drug cartels.
That is that is so bullshit. There was people working at the bank who were purposely doing this, and it sounds like getting paid for it. Am I dreaming? Are we fucking serious about this?
And the amount that was being floated around is there was a transfer of $670 million in illicit funds. That's a lot. That was over a 6-year period of time. Well, to think about 6 years ago, that millions of dollars could buy a heck of a lot more. They say that their anti-money laundering system were deemed inadequate, allowing for criminals to exploit the system. I guess a public ledger like Bitcoin could solve all this, right? Like it's easy to determine where shit is going.
Well, solve is the wrong word there, right? Expose is probably the word you're looking for, because I don't think these guys are looking for solutions. That's for damn sure.
So TD Bank decided, you know what? We're going to plead guilty to the charges of conspiracy to violate the Bank Secrecy Act. And they committed money laundering, and they agreed to implement significant reform to its anti-money laundering program. And they may face restrictions moving forward. This is one of the bigger banks, not just in Canada, but also in the United States.
Huge bank.
$3 billion. But the reality is, they'll just take it out of the next person's account and pay for that. So if you thought they didn't have your money before, let me tell you, they're going to have $3 billion less moving forward. So if there's going to be a bank run, it's going to be pretty damn easy to topple TD Bank after this thing. So
can we note that? Okay, so two things here, right? Number one, we at CBP tried to get bank accounts with a bunch of banks when we started this podcast. Banks, credit unions, whatever. I don't remember if TD wouldn't give us one or we went there or not, but I'm positive that if I went there today and tried to get a bank account, they wouldn't give me one, 100%. That's number one. Number two, don't forget that it basically, as soon as TD tried to conduct a criminal operation outside of Canada in a country that's actually serious about catching money laundering operations, they get nabbed right away. Do you think that TD is just not doing any of this stuff in Canada?
I don't even have a clue.
Of course you fucking do. Of course they fucking are. Of course they fucking are.
I don't know.
They've been accused of this a number of times over the last few years.
Okay.
By multiple different groups. There's been reports from Sam Cooper over the years about how TD is one of the banks that's involved in laundering huge amounts of money for Chinese nationals, influencing elections, carrying out secret police operations, all this stuff. And those reports are going to keep coming.
I wasn't aware that they're tied to that.
Yes. And like the idea that TD, is not doing this stuff in Canada was ludicrous before. But if you see this story and just think, wow, they're not doing it over here. Like, again, like, should you be able to vote? I don't know. Drive? I don't know. We gotta, this is on the test, we got to find out which box you check on this question before we can let you cast a ballot, I think.
So what's this moving forward with TD, especially in Canada? Do you force them to implement better anti-money laundering?
What are they going to do?
I don't know. But the money laundering, though, it's not simply a TD thing. And I've said this numerous times. In Canada, real estate is, I'm not saying people should do this, but from what I understand, it's the best place to launder money. You come in with fucking dirty money, buy a house legitimately, but you upgrade that shit with cash.
That's what everybody says.
How you get the cash?
Yeah.
And you just new roof, expansion, whatever the fuck you sell that shit comes up fucking clean.
Yeah.
That's the way. And that's just done over and over again. So it's not TD Bank that does this. It's every fucking company.
But don't worry, Len. It's actually small business owners that are the biggest tax cheats that we need to rein in,
Do you have any more notable international stories before to go to notable north?
I
don't want to gloss over because
I wasn't planning on being asked. Let me check my Twitter book.
No, just in case, because I want to make sure that we exhaust everything here. Because I got a couple
the Federal Reserve's Neil Kashkari, famously infamous money guy, quoted about an hour before we started the show, Bitcoin is still worthless after 12 years. That's a banger. We need to talk about, if we're going to go to North, we have to talk about Kamala Sutra's plan for black crypto owners. Did I read that wrong?
Yes, you did. And Predator was able to actually show evidence that this is legitimate.
Come on.
Yes, this is entirely correct. If you go to Predator's Twitter account,
I'm there right now. I'm going to pull it up I'll pull it up on the feed
or whatever recent tweets or posts or whatever. It goes to a PDF that is part of the Kamala Harris campaign, and it talks about this. I don't know how you could do this. I don't know how you could implement this to encourage a particular segment of the population.
She is so brain dead. People who
Did you see the plagiarism stuff?
Yeah, of course.
Wikipedia?
Did anyone who's seen her speak think that she has the brain power, the mental horses to write a book on lawfare? Does anyone who's seen her speak really think that? Anybody at all? It is incredible to me that people like, I think this has got to be one of the funniest. We were robbed of a quality election cycle in terms of like memes and clickable stuff because these two hate each other so much and refuse to debate. But God, this would have been such a fun cycle because these guys are just both so stupid and so quotable. We're robbed, Len. It's like a look what they took from us instance. Okay, let's pull this up on Predator's feed.
If you click on that link, it's going to go to a PDF.
This?
No, right above it, there's that blue link. No,
I'll just look here. Supporting a regulatory framework for cryptocurrencies and other digital assets so black men who invest in and own these assets.
He didn't just pull this shit out of thin air. He provided the link to this. So it is like legitimate and
no. Enabling black men who hold digital assets to benefit.
I don't know. I mean, I don't want to go there.
Len. What's going on?
I
gotta get this text printed on a shirt. Like, this is what I need to be wearing for the show. This is
wash off after a few.
This is so top notch.
Yeah.
Black men who participate in the market are protected.
Hey, she's now pro crypto candidate.
It's so shameless. It's so shamelessly brain dead. Like, I'm not like, super well intertwined with the black community, but I cannot imagine, Len, that anyone reads that and is like, wow, that really makes me feel good about where I am, my standing in life. I have to be like singled out for support. It can't, can it? I don't know. I don't want to go down that road, but
yeah, I don't want to touch this.
It's just so great, the stuff that this woman comes up with and her campaign comes up with, like vintage stuff. God, we're just robbed, like I said, of a quality election cycle because these guys won't talk to the press. He's on the beach. He's on the beach, buddy.
But think about it. This guy's a leader.
It's amazing. World. It's amazing.
How
about Kamala Sutra leading some of the meetings, right? She's like, and see DeSantis talking about Hurricane Helene, CNN or something, asking like, why won't you talk to Vice President Harris? He's like, she's not in the chain of command.
Yeah.
Len, this is all time stuff. Where do you want to go next? We going to North now? Notables?
Yeah, let's go to North. I got a couple of good ones here because the Toronto Sun has filed a Freedom of Information request. And according to this article, they filed this with the city of Toronto, this Freedom of Information request. And they were trying to get information on the Indigenous Climate Action Grant. And this is a program created to support the implementation.
We got to take a second here. I got to stop you. We got to appreciate, the viewers need to appreciate how hard it is for Len to read these stories and keep a straight face. I've known Len a long time. He's trying fucking hard not to laugh reading these stories.
It's going to be challenging because this is the Indigenous Climate Action Grant, and this is trying to achieve and implement the city's transformation to net zero strategy. So the city of Toronto is trying to reduce their emissions to net zero by 2040. So it's not just, it seems like around a corner. And the program offers grants up to $20,000 each to support local Indigenous communities in undertaking projects and initiatives to help address the climate emergency and protect the environment. So all in total was $219,000 were approved by City Council, and that budget was blown, apparently. And Toronto approved 18 of the 25 eligible proposals from last year. And some of these proposals, one of them, approved for the Children's Peace Theater. They were given $15,000 grant to fund a program on subjects such as ecological governance and biodiversity. Another was called Earthworks Vision, and they were awarded $17,000 to host stewardship events on a trail that runs along the Humber River in Weston. Another one, the Turtle Protectors, they were given $15,000 to pay for a part-time staffer and for volunteers. And two other groups, the Afro-Native Creations and the Afro-Indigenous Nova Scotian Collective, were each given $7,500. This is pretty long. I'll just give you so for
the highlights. The highlights, okay.
So the former wanted the money to showcase their art and traditional medicines and environmentally focused crafts while supporting the Black and Indigenous community. The other had plans for cultural teaching, such as, this is great, ribbon skirt making, beading, and dream catcher workshop. And they also wanted to host a feast on top of that. So there was also the Rooted Farmers Market, and they built itself on Instagram as I can't even pronounce this. Toronto's first Black and Indigenous farmers market. They were given $10,000 to develop culturally relevant workshops for community members, including beadworking and cooking classes. And the group website is now offline, and the social media page has not been updated since 2023.
Big surprise.
The city confirmed that it also has a permit in East York Park where it once operated. So, and Asimea Circles got $15,000 to create a BIPOC, that's Black, Indigenous, and people of color, seed and medicine sharing and trading network. And the Ska-B Makwa Group also awarded $7,500 for gardening supplies, traditional medicines, firewood, and costs related to the center's sweat lodge. And so, yeah, it just goes on and on, man. So this is where the money's going towards.
This guy's getting firewood. You know what would be good? I don't know about you. Like, I remember years ago there was an Indigenous protest. I don't know what the validity of the cause, but if you're really serious about controlling the environment, stop setting tires on fire on the Argyle Street Bridge. Like, that was what they were doing for a long time over here in the Hamilton area up in Caledonia. This is like 2005, I think. There was a big protest and there was like a tire fire there every day. Just a bunch of tires on fire. First of all, where'd you get the tires? Second of all, I didn't hear anything in that set of grants that would actually help control climate. I mean, like the climate change thing, obviously a grift. Whether you think climate change is anthropomorphic, whatever that word is, caused by humans or not, the idea that any of the stuff you just mentioned is going to control climate change is stupid. You're stupid if you think that it is. And like this is a ton of money going to these programs. As you mentioned, I'm glad you said it because I was going to bring it up. How many of them were spawned, in the dark of night to get this money and then completely erased from memory shortly after the money was received? We're going to find out. The Toronto Sun is going to find out. I'm sure they're going to keep digging into this because people are sick of watching money go into these vacuous, nebulous, sort of waste causes. And you can say what you want about Indigenous cultures and Indigenous supports. Those are not the Indigenous causes that need help. I think a lot of communities in Ontario, maybe across the country, are still under boil water advisories. I think that there's a problem with this problem with like domestic violence and murdered children and murdered women, and
there's no healthcare coverage too in some areas.
And so when people say like, oh, we're helping communities, like it's not the fucking sweat lodge that needs the money, guys. It's the fucking the culture needs support in other ways. Firewood ain't it.
But to be fair, this is from the city of Toronto. So
yeah, fine. But like, the city of Toronto doesn't give a fuck about any of this stuff.
The reality is,
how many Indigenous communities are around Toronto?
I didn't realize there was that many. I've learned there was quite a few. But the thing that I wanted to point out is that Toronto is going through a financial crisis. And they don't have enough funding to go around. They spent a significant amount on renaming Dundas Square into something else. I forget what it's named now. And their infrastructure is rapidly getting older. Gardner, TTC, sewage.
Yeah.
There's so much. And
they're so desperate for money, they were going to tax rainfall, you will recall earlier.
Yes, good point. And whatever. Well, at least we could have a dancing Olivia Chow. And we could always remember that.
I was going to say, is there a Freedom of Information request in to see how much that thong bikini cost her for Caravana? But I guess no one wants to know.
Let's move on. Did you see that the federal government has made some changes for CMHC and the refinancing now? So they can allow up to 90% loan to value for home renovations to add a suite. for family members. This is up to $2 million. And they're saying this is going to allow for people to have a new rental apartment, add an in-law suite, or build a laneway home. So it's going to give people, as Freelance says, so your aging parents could stay at home longer and families could live together. This is, we have a problem here in Canada, or not going to say problem, a challenge here in Canada, where a lot of people came in, the amount of units being built, homes didn't meet the number of people coming in. So there was added pressure to the existing system. Rentals went up, price of homes went up in terms of cost. So this is one way to alleviate it. So without building a bunch of new units, you're just trying to pass this off to private entities, to homeowners, to help renovate their home and to make it so it gets a multi-dwelling unit, so to speak. And this is one way to help alleviate the pressures on the housing system. I suspect there's going to be a lot of people in some parts of the GTA, like Brampton, is going to take advantage of this. If they already haven't done so, they probably will, because it just makes sense. They've been doing it already, so why not continue to do it? Now they have even more opportunity to finance this. Is this going to solve any problems? No, but have been putting homes in laneways for the past little while. They're just trying to find anything possible to try to deal with this challenge.
Except actually building homes.
They can't build them fast enough.
Why?
That's a good question.
I'll tell you why. Because the red tape, the fees, it's all too high. These guys are getting in their own way. The best part about this is that there is only one problem brewing greater than the housing problem, and it's the debt problem. And Canadian households, we've talked about many times, drowning in credit card debt, drowning in line of credit debt, drowning in car debt, education debt, all this stuff. I'm gonna cruise through the sort of flow chart that I have in my head about where this ends up. If I wanted to build a laneway home on my property, I could do it, right? I would take a loan out. I would make more YouTube shorts or whatever, and find a way to get some more money, take more hours at work, whatever the case is, and find a way to build a laneway home. Presumably, as mentioned in the article, for my in-laws who would also contribute to the home, or for my brother, or for my dad, or whatever, right? That's what a competent homeowner would do. A competent homeowner would have a plan so that when mom and dad get to be 80 or 75 or whatever, they have the resources and the sort of method planned out so that they can execute on this vision. That means a number of things. It could mean buying a house where there's already an in-law suite. It could mean buying a large enough property that you can build a laneway home. It could mean any number of things. Competent homeowners have this stuff planned already. What this plan is doing is twofold, and both prongs are bad. They're ill-advised and bad. The first problem is that taking 90% LTV loans against your property to build laneway homes doesn't help you. It drowns you in debt. It forces you to work longer. It ensures that you will never collect your CBP because you're just going to be fucking working the rest of your life trying to pay that mortgage off. And at the end of all this, you're not going to have a house to pass to your kids. And the house is going to wind up back in the market, except to the government's benefit, it will have two doors, neither of which they paid for. Incredible. On top of that, only the dumbest people are going to do this. Competent people are not going to do it. And so you're going to force incompetent people not only into debt, but into large-scale home renovation projects that they don't have the mental firepower to execute on. Plain and simple. Insane that we are going this direction. Completely bonkers. But Len, anything to solve the problem, except, of course, addressing the supply side of the issue. We just won't do it. The demand side seems to be completely off the table, and now we're not going to address demand or supply either. There's an understanding here clearly that we don't have enough doors, a term and a measuring stick that I hate for a number of reasons I've outlined before and I won't get into now. This doesn't fix it. It simply does not fix it. Nobody wants to live in a fucking basement anyways, right? Like that's the other thing. You're adding basement apartments. It doesn't help you with the problems that you're actually having, because the housing problem is one piece. It's one signpost along the way to a huge demographic issue, whether it's birth rates or the sort of increased share of men in the population now. Good luck, man. I'm never building a fucking apartment in this house ever. I don't care what it costs. I'm only going to build a laneway house if I get a property with significant acreage and I want to move one of my parents in or move my in-laws in or whatever. That's the only time I'll do it. And the idea that I will do it for any other reason, no matter how perverse an incentive is put in front of me, is insane. I'll never do it because competent people won't do it. Only incompetent people will do it, and they will be buried in this mistake for the rest of their life.
Yeah, I don't have anything to add to that. It's a new program. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, let's see what happens. Yep. Welcome to the Canadian See What Happens podcast.
Yes. Let's do the last Canadian story because we're going up to an hour 45 very soon. Canada and India looks like they're going to diplomatic war because there's a dispute over an assassination, and it took place in Canada. So 6 diplomats in each of the countries were recalled, and for us, the Indian High Commissioner and 5 other diplomats gone. And from what I was reading here, Trudeau is saying we will never tolerate the involvement of a foreign government threatening and killing Canadian citizens on Canadian soil. India has made a monumental mistake in choosing to use their diplomats and organized crime to attack Canadians. Police uncovered evidence of a targeted campaign against Canadian citizens by agents of the Indian government. Remember Hardeep Singh Nijjar, 45 years old, was fatally shot last year or 2 years ago.
2 years ago in BC, right?
And he was leaving a Sikh temple in Surrey, BC, yes, and he got shot and killed. Not only has this allegation come up, the U.S. State Department recently said that an Indian inquiry committee set up to investigate a plot to assassinate another prominent Sikh separatist leader living in New York would travel to Washington on Tuesday as part of their ongoing investigations to discuss the case. Looks like even Washington is now getting involved. And there's some sort of foreign involvement that may be going on U.S. soil as well. This is pretty fucking crazy stuff. And I know that now there's some sort of diplomatic war between Canada and the United States, and Canada and India. And that's just, maybe it's hyperbole with what I'm saying, a diplomatic war, but it kind of seems like that. I'm not sure what's this going to impact in terms moving forward of issuance of visas over there. I don't think it's going to impact that whatsoever, but this is interesting to see how this thing plays out. The relations between Canada and India are getting pretty shitty.
They're tense everywhere, right? Tense at the sort of level of the average citizen, thanks to immigration and PRs and whatnot, and now also tense at the level of the federal government. I don't know. I have nothing to add. It's still a fresh story, right? This only happened, I think, yesterday or today. So, we'll continue to watch it here on the Canadian See What Happens podcast. But for now, I don't know. Stay tuned. Add this to the list of global tensions, right? That's the sort of the theme. We're going to continue going down this road where everyone hates everyone for X or Y reason. It doesn't seem to be slowing down. Even us, we're supposed to be like the, favorite son, right? When you go traveling, you're supposed to have a Canadian flag on your backpack. It's like it's supposed to increase the number of, serendipitous interactions you have if you have that backpack on, but I guess not.
That's it, Joey. Let's end it now. 1:40.
Let's wrap it up. Yeah, that's good job. Good job today. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Sly Goomba Wednesday night. I might be there. Len will be there for sure. We're going to talk to him about all things Bitcoin. What are you going to talk to him about?
It will remain to be seen. I'm not sure yet. I'll have to figure it out. I want to talk about his podcast too, like why it's not going on anymore, or at least temporarily on hiatus. But either way, the Goomba, come on. I want to talk about Mario. There's so much we could talk about over there.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. We'll talk to you guys soon. Take care of yourselves.
Don't be a cock.